If post-mill were true, it'd be a very easy case to prove, because you would have the people who would have known the apostles and lived during the time period where the post-mill people say, hey, Nero equaled the Antichrist, the destruction of Jerusalem is the Great Tribulation. The people who lived during that time period, if post-mill were true, you would expect we would have writings of them going, hey, we knew the apostles, this historical event equated to this prophecy, this event equaled what Jesus said, this event equaled what Paul said, this event equaled what John said. All the lines would be crossed. They were saying nothing else needs to happen. From now on, we're just going to march, spread the gospel, and more people are going to believe and obey what Jesus commanded, fulfilling the Great Commission. That'd be so easy to prove. There'd be no reason, if it were true, that we shouldn't be able to find that. But because we can't find that, to me, that draws a red flag to something doesn't add up, something doesn't match up. How come the people who knew the apostles didn't see certain events lining up with what the apostles said? Being they're eyewitnesses and they were taught by the apostles, that they didn't go, hey, he's writing this lines up right with it. I'm the person to know because I'm living during those time periods and I had access to the apostles. Because that's not what we find. Actually, we find the total opposite. That the earliest writings from people who knew the apostles and lived during the time period where the post-mill say all the stuff was fulfilled, because they still saw prophecy is happening sometime in the future, that those events not being fulfilled, or them not going, hey, those prophecies were satisfied by such and such event. And you might go, oh, the post-mill people go, wait a second, we do have that. And sure, they have some crumbs. They could go, Peter says, hey, when Joel said your young men will dream dreams and visions, look, that's being fulfilled right now during your guys' lifetime. And so they'll go, oh, or in Matthew saying how Jesus fulfilled this prophecy. So we know that the writers, that the apostles, that they did, when they saw something being linked up to a certain prophecy, they said what it was. And they will go, and all that stuff happened. But what they won't go is they go, okay, so where's the false prophet making an image of the beast, and that image spoke? Where's that? What lines up with that? And they go, oh, well, that, you know, the Antichrist or the beast, all that's Nero. Okay, so they can answer it in like a vague way, but you go on specifics. How did the false prophet call down fire from heaven? What was the mark of the beast? What exactly was that everyone had to have on their forehead or their hand in order to buy and sell? And who are all the people being beheaded for not worshiping this beast? They'll have a few things that they might be able to point to and go, this maybe explains that. But why wasn't the whole thing wrapped up? Like, if post-mill were true, it seems so odd or confusing that anyone would ever think pre-mill were true. If all the events happened, here's a concrete example of how everything was fulfilled. How in the world did pre-mill ever come about, right? Because if post-mill, if they teach that true doctrine would only be more and more widespread as all the nations came to believe everything that was right and true and wonderful about the gospel, how would a silly idea like pre-mill ever escape? Or how was it not lassoed up a long time ago and people said, what are you, nuts? Why are you reinventing the wheel? We already knew that this prophecy lined up with this historical event. And now we just got to keep marching and getting everyone else in line to believe and obey all the things that Jesus taught. Where if pre-mill were true, it does seem like, oh, well, 300 or 400 years later, now that the people who knew the apostles, that they're gone, that the devil could then creep in and start going, hey, you know all that stuff about prophecy, kind of ignore it. Where if the pre-mill view is correct, that teachers would only go from bad to worse, you can allot for how a false teaching like post-mill could creep in. In Titus, when Paul wrote like, hey, our hope should always be on looking up to the sky and Jesus coming back down, that if that's true, but post-mill people, whether they admit that that's what it does, but they go kind of ignore that, our hope now is to advance the kingdom worldwide and maybe occasionally look up to the sky or just kind of forget about that. Like, just get really focused on getting everyone to obey all this stuff, and so you're not upwardly focused, and so you're not looking up because you're so busy, looking across. So instead of you looking up, looking for our one and only hope, that Jesus coming back to earth to right it, is we're now not looking up, but we're looking across, and we're looking at our own efforts and the people we know's efforts about spreading the gospel, and we kind of ignore Jesus is coming back, or that's not even our hope, because we're so confident in our ability to play out the Great Commission.